After designing the digital planner, we can now create them in the Keynote app. I have created this design in the last video and I will be using this to guide me on the creation process. Now let's open the Keynote file we have created last time and go to the slide layout. To do that, tap on the screen, and once this option appears, tap Edit Slide Layout. You can choose whichever slide layout from the list in the left panel. I will be using the title layout, and the first thing to do is to delete all the objects in here since I won't be using them. To delete all of the objects, tap on the screen on the pop-up option and then tap the Select Objects, then select All, and then delete. This is the most basic slide layout which we are going to use as the base template for some of the slide layouts we are going to create. So let's duplicate this, and to duplicate, tap the slide layout thumbnail in the left panel, then select Duplicate. We are going to create the grid page slide layout in the duplicate. So to start, let's add a table. Tap the plus icon in the upper right and select the table icon. Here I'm going to use the basic table template. Now let's resize and reposition the table so that the corners are aligned with the corners of the slide. We can adjust this later, but right now I will use this just to gauge how the spacing between the grid lines look like. If you cannot reposition it perfectly to the corners of the slide, you can use table formatting. To do that, select the table first and then tap the brush icon in the upper right. In panel, go to Arrange. Under the Size and Position section, modify the width and height value to the one which we have used for the digital planner size. For me, I use 1200 for the width and 766 for the height. Once those are set, tap Done. For the X and Y positions, set both of them to 0. To create the grids, go to the Table option. In the rows, increase the value here until you are satisfied on the size of the spacing of each of the lines. I have set mine to 35 rows. Then for the column, I'm just going to set this to 1. Now that I am looking at the grid lines, I'm realizing that I do not want the lines to be from edge to edge, and I'm thinking of adding spaces between the edge of the slide and the grid lines. So let's go back to the Arrange option and adjust the width and maybe even the height. I do not have a definite spacing in mind, so I'm just trying different values and adding them until I am satisfied with the look of the grid lines. This solely depends on your preference, so you are welcome to experiment and try different values for this. Just make sure that after each value testing, tap the center alignment in the alignment and distribution section to make sure that the table object is perfectly centered in the slide. I settled with the width of the table set to 1150 and the height to 720. Again, make sure that the table is horizontally and vertically centered using the alignment buttons. Now to customize how the lines look like, tap on Cells, but before doing anything though, you have to decide about the basic format of your grid lines. For me, all of the grid lines will purely be horizontal lines for this basic slide layout. So now I'm going to remove those vertical lines. Tap on Cell Border and select the left vertical edge, then tap on the border style. Scroll through all of the options and on the bottom part, select No Border. And I'm going to repeat this for the right vertical edge of the table. Now let's start with the horizontal lines. For the top edge, I want to customize this, so instead of using the preset border styles, I'm going to tap on the line type first. The line type that I'm going to use is the dotted one. You can use a solid line or a dash if you like. Go back to cell borders, and this time let's change the color. You can use the color options or the preset ones. For me, I'm going to use this gray available as a preset. Now let's go back to the cell border again. This time, I'm going to change the width of the line. I like the width at 2, so I'm going to leave it like that. Those were the settings for the grid line, so now I'm just going to repeat the process and apply those settings for the inner horizontal borders and the bottom edge border of the table. Once the borders are all set, let's go back to the Arrange option again and make sure that the table is centered using the alignment buttons, because we might have accidentally repositioned the table during those editing and setting up. Once those are done, you can lock this object to make sure that there is no unintended modification that will occur. It is also a good practice to do this, especially if you design digital planners. After locking the table, you can further inspect the grid lines that we have created. After inspecting, I realized that the grid lines are a bit darker than what I like, so I am unlocking the table object again and changing the color of all the horizontal borders to a lighter gray. Once all the changes are done, I'm going to make sure that the table is properly centered and then lock the object. You can do another inspection again to make sure that the grid lines are what you want them to be. And that's it for this video. I'm Kazel and see you in the next one. Bye!